There's a few different ways to bring things into Unity. One method, you can export just these modular pieces and then build your building in Unity. We are going to build our building in Maya. This will allow us to get a easier poly count to make sure that we are staying under the 100,000 limit. So I went ahead and I built my building. I just duplicated the parts, placed everything where I needed it to go. And once you have your building created, going to duplicate it. I put it into a group. I duplicated the group and I combined everything together. So I did a mesh combine on the duplicate, and then delete your history when you are done. With the building that's been combined, I then triangulated it, and this turns all of your quads into triangles. And you can do so by going to Mesh and Triangulate. This is the building that we will export and bring into Unity. And you should always export with your pivot centered and on the very bottom. So I'm going to hold down D and V and then snap the pivot, just drag it on the arrow straight down. I'm then going to move it to the center of my world. The center of the grid in Maya is the same as the center of the grid in Unity. So it's much easier if your pivot point is correct in Maya, because you cannot change the pivot point once you are in Unity. I'm going to select my building and go up to File, Export Selection. And I'm going to call it Building 1 Try. You can put your name in front of it since it is a group project. Just to make it a little bit more organized. And then hit Export Selection. In Unity, I have the Unity Hub open. And I'm going to come over to where it says New and hit this little triangle. This allows you, if you have multiple versions of Unity, to select which version of Unity you want to use. And I'm going to select what I want. I'll get a second pop-up. And we're going to do the Universal Render Pipeline. And for location, I'm just going to put it on the desktop. Make sure you name your project now. It can be a little bit tricky naming it later. Then hit Create. The create process will take a moment. And this is what you will get. It gives you a default scene. And one thing that Unity does, or at least my version of Unity, is the first thing it does is auto bakes out a light map. And this can be very taxing on your computer. So I'll show you how to turn it off and back on again if you need it. Come up to Window, Rendering, and Lighting Settings. And where it says Auto Generate, I'm just going to uncheck that. And now if I move a light or add another light, it won't spend time recalculating the light baking. So I'm going to turn that off for now. And this is the default scene. We are not using the default scene, so we're going to be creating a new one. On the bottom here, we have our assets folder. And the assets folder is the exact same as the folder that is created on the desktop or wherever you created your Maya project. So on the desktop, I have my game demo folder. If I open it up, I have something that's similar to the Maya project folder, but it's a Unity project folder. And the main one you should be concerned with is assets. It is very important you do not delete or move or rename anything here. Inside of assets, I have the exact same folders that I have here. Right here under the project, I have all of the folders that are on the actual project. If I delete something here, it will be deleted from the folder, and if I create something in the folder, if I just create an empty folder, it will appear in Unity. And this is where you organize and control what you're putting into the scene. Up here, the hierarchy is the outliner, if it were Maya. And you just have a list of everything in the scene, and groups are similar to how they work in Maya. Camera controls are the same. If I hold down Alt and left click, I can rotate. Alt and right click is zoom in and out. I can also use the scroll wheel. And Alt middle click is pan up and down. If I select an object and hit F, it will frame relatively close to where it should be, and it will also rotate around that object. If I want to delete something from this assets folder, like this new folder that I created, I can just highlight it and hit delete, and it'll ask me if I really want to do this because you cannot undo this delete action. I'm going to open up the scenes folder, and the only one in it right now is called sample scene. I'm going to right click, create, and scene. It is right clicked inside of this folder here on the bottom. And I'm going to rename my Unity scene. If I double click on it, I'm opening up the new scene, and it is going to be blank. The only thing that exists in an empty Unity scene is a camera and a directional light. I'm going to go back to the main assets folder, and I already have a materials folder, and I'm going to right click, create folder, and I need one for models. I like to put an underscore before the name, just so the custom folders that I use are first in line. So I'm going to rename the materials folder so I can have a underscore, so I can have the two folders I use the most at the very front. Opening up the materials folder, I am going to find the exports from Painter, so these 6 different textures, and I'm going to drag and drop them into this materials folder. It will take a moment to import, and then they will be here. And going back to the Unity project folder, if I open up the materials folder, I can see that they are here. Unity will create a metadata file for everything. They're very small, and just leave them there. Going back to the assets folder, I'm now going to open up my models and do the exact same thing. Going to find the FBX file that I want, click and drag it into the models folder. It will give me a little preview down here. And to get it into the scene, I'm going to left click on it and drag it into my hierarchy. And it is here exactly how it was in Maya. If I select the light, it is a directional light. It works the same as the directional lights in Maya. I can rotate it around and change the lighting to light what part I want. I like this side more. So the next step is getting materials applied. So I'm going to go back to my materials folder, and right now I only have textures, and I need to make some materials. So I'm going to right click, create, and material. And I'm going to call this UV set 1 material, and make a second one. Call this UV set 2. Applying materials is very, very easy in Unity. I'm going to select this material, then I'm going to left click and drag my base color, the albedo map. Left click, drag to where it says base map. If I click on the material or on a texture, my material disappears. If you are having trouble with this, there's a little lock button on the top right of the inspector. If I lock that, now it doesn't matter if I click away, it will always show this same material. Next, I'm going to drag my metallic smoothness and drag that under to metallic map. Then finally, my normal map, I'm going to drag that to normal. Now it says this is not marked as a normal map, and if you fix now, Unity will know this is a normal map and it will use it properly. I'm going to unlock this material so I can go to my second material, and then lock it again and do the exact same thing. Click and drag. And then make sure you unlock when you are done. To apply them to your object, again, it is just drag and drop. It is very important that you combine your model before you export into Painter or into Unity. If you do not, then every single modular piece you'll have to drag the material onto it, which is very time consuming. If you just have one mesh with two materials, you can easily drag one and drag two. And it's usually pretty obvious if you drag the incorrect material onto an object because it will not display properly. One thing you might have to change is your smoothness level. So my material is looking a little bit too reflective. If I just select the correct material, I have my metallic map, which also has smoothness. And if I drag it up, it will become much glossier. And if I drag it down, it will become much duller, which is what I want for my sandstone texture. I'm going to do something similar with this.